readers! As the title of the week suggests, so I'm going to introduce to you 3 other literary series that I adore, highly recommend, and hope to one day, maybe, possibly, family, if you're watching, please take notes, have in a paper collection. Either way, I will have to buy them. That's pretty expensive, but I really do like them, so it's worth it. I'm gonna start this video by talking about the most famous one. Probably you've already heard about it if you are on the book community. Either way, if you're starting, this is a good thing for you to start with a dystopian, like romantically focused book. So the selection is the one I'm talking about. There are 5 main volumes in this series and 5 short stories that could be all gathered in Happily Ever After, the 6th book, but just because it's all the short stories together. So it depends on the edition you're buying or reading. And the first book was published in 2012. Meanwhile, the 5th book was published in 2016. I read them. There was already the full-on first trilogy out. So with the selection, the elite, and the one, and I was not waiting for too long when they published the Heir, so the 4th one, and I read the 5th one shortly after. So I read them. I was in middle school. It was an easy read, very interesting. Even though that was another love triangle, this one was good in the sense of the character I didn't care about in the love triangle for the main character to pick wasn't too present. So there was kind of an obvious outcome for the love triangle, but it is a good one, so it's worth it. The writer Kiera Cass wrote many sweet romances like this. I have read a few that are not just this series. I've read, but I've not read it all, so it's on my TBR, and I'm probably gonna, I don't know, criticize them one day for you, just not yet. I did not read, I believe, all the short stories, so they are also in my to be read list. But in either way, I pretty much have a good memory of the 3 first books. I have a few of the 2 last ones. They were not so bad, of course not as good as the first trilogy, focused on the protagonist America. And I guess the dystopian genre applies only to the first trilogy, since they are solving the dystopian society and government put in place in the 2 last books. So to summarize, this is about America. She is in the 5 castes. She's a 5. That means out of 8 castes, she's not at the bottom, but she's not very rich, nor very recognized as someone with a lot of value. But she's a creator. She can play violin, she sings beautifully and stuff like that. And that's imposed on the people in the caste 5. And she grew up with a friend, Aspen, who is a caste 7, so he has to do hard works that are very tiring. They have few money, and she still falls in love with him, and they date in secret because her mother would lose her mind if she found out she dated a 7, because this means for girls that when you marry you go down to the caste of the 7 instead of, I don't know, upgrading your husband into the 5 castes. So when she believes that he's about to propose to her secretly, she's all happy and giggly, and that's the exact time the prince of the government is announcing that is promoting a selection to choose his future wife, and every girl in the country is welcome to give their file so that they can apply. And the mom then subscribe America, and America is taken in a picture to pose and add on the profile, and she's like so beautiful because she's so happy of how she's in love of her husband and she's about to get married, that she's taken into the candidates. They're supposed to be picked out of luck and during a TV show, but actually it's already pre-arranged by the king, but that's not the main focus in the story. So she's so beautiful that she's taken, and she somehow passes the like 35 first candidates, like glitch out because they have to eliminate bit by bit in the in the TV show. And then this is like a bachelorette, and actually she agrees to go because participating to this TV show allows her money to get money, and like I said, she's not very rich, so that is helpful for her family because she has brothers and sisters. And also because husband just broke her heart out of the blue, so she's like, what the, I thought we were gonna get married and you actually want me to go meet the prince. Okay, I will. And she actually doesn't care about the prince. She's totally like out of her own environment when she arrives, so she's like homesick and she panics. She needs hair and she breathes pretty heavily, and then she meets by accident the prince Maxon, and he's trying to be helpful and charming, and she just like diss him, and he's like, oh, that's surprising, and yeah, it goes from there. This is such a cute story. I know people don't like America, they think she's a pick-me. It is a bit true. But it's like, I don't care, I'm nostalgic, I like the book, I like the story, I like the choice she made in the end, I like the fight, we see some kind of growth for the characters. I like also the little friendships made, and I guess also a bit, even though at the time it pissed me off, the rivalry between the candidates. There's a potential upcoming movie from Netflix because Caracas posted on Instagram, I believe, that they were reviewing the script and all, but it's been for some time now that it's a project, so I don't know if it's still happening. I hope it does, because you know I like an adaptation. I know it's not going to be as good as books, but maybe they will make some changes that will make us like the story better. Either way, if they don't, it's like re-entering this universe, this story, and I kind of like this feeling even when it's a mix. So then I'll tell you about the one series that took me the longest to finish, actually, because I didn't want it to end, just because. I literally grew up with these books. So I'm talking about The School for Good and Evil. So there are 6 main volumes divided into 2 trilogies. Again, I like series with divided, I guess. Even though at the time when it's announced, I'm like, why? And there are 2 new books that came out recently that are about the origins of the School for Good and Evil. So I've read only the main trilogy for now. It was published from 2013 to 2015 for the first trilogy, so each year there was a new book. And then there was a gap of 2 years, and then boom, the second trilogy comes out. The 4th book comes out in 2017, and then we have to wait again 2 years. And I quite didn't like the few changes of the 2017s. I was like, that's not where I wanted it to pick it up, but okay, why not? There are some parts of it that are good, and I had to wait again 2 years for the 5th book. And this one I don't really remember much, but I know I wasn't like all in for that one. I was like, this is a mess now. So how does my how will my characters try to solve it all and all. I don't think the last one is gonna make it. It's gonna be good or else. Maybe I should have stopped to the first trilogy. I just continued in the hope that one of my ship would happen, but it didn't. And I was like, no, I'm not picking up something to ruin my childhood. So I waited. Like, the last book was published in 2020 and I didn't read it. I was like, I can do it later. And also because in 2020 it was my slump year, so I just didn't want to read books, especially 600 pages of it, when the previous one were not as good. They were good actually, but they were not as good as the first trilogy, so it was a bit of a letdown. I was like, no, I don't want it to end, I don't want to read. So there's several reasons I am putting in for later. And I actually read it when last year I was starting again my readings. I was getting out of my read slump, and that's when I was, I said I was making dates for me to finish my books, and they were pretty heavy dates because books of 300 pages, I would read them in 10 days. And so this one of 600 pages, I think I made a opening of 18 days for me to read it before the coming of the movie on Netflix. So I will actually, as soon as I got in, I read it in almost a week. So that was like the half of what I had in mind for me to intend to read. And it was such a good feeling to go back into this world. This last book was amazing. I actually cried my eyes out for this one because the ending because something I wanted to happen was happening, and also because they made me believe that someone I really loved was dying, and because it was the end, because like I would never see those characters ever again, and I was like, oh, I'm bowling out. I'm bowling out. So yeah, Someone Shine and Me, I hope it's the way to pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering him, but anyways, he's such a vibe. I follow him on TikTok. He's a good author. For now, he's not very problematic. I hope he's never gonna be. And I kind of love what he did. He got us the adaptation with Netflix. He announced it on TikTok. I was like, what? Really? And that's when I decided it was about time to read it. The last book before the coming out of the movie, because I was like, I need to replunge myself in that world, and that was worth it. So what he decided to write about was like kinda fairy tales retelling, so this is very much a fantastic book. So it follows Sophie and Agatha. They're best friends, but they're literally opposite from one another. One is blonde, one is a brunette, one has a perfect skin, the other is like sleepless, so she's very pale, very negative, very dark, whereas Sophie is like such an altruist person. She was a very good person. She's generous, she helps others, she smiles, she's polite to everyone. But actually, when you go into her point of view in the story, she's kinda arrogant. She's like such a narrow-minded person. She's like, I'm the star. So when it was observed as kids in the village were starting to get kidnapped and never coming back, but actually we saw their faces in illustrations of the new fairy tales of the library. People started to make like some legends that there was a grandmaster who would like to kidnap 2 children each year to make them students of the School for Good and Evil, where they were trained to become villains or heroes. They actually believed that so that they could become part of some new fairy tale that would be written. So of course, Sophie, being, like I said, a bit of a selfish person who believes she's not anyone, she actually wants to become one of the princesses, and she actually does everything she does out of generosity and like her skincare routine and all that is beauty stuff, just to get a chance of being a princess. whereas actually becoming friends with Agatha was also part of the plan, and Agatha and her actually become really friends. So I think she was a bit genuine when she did started to become friends with Agatha, and Agatha was like, this is a messed up story, I don't want to be a part of this, how could you want it to be? So anyways, when it is the night, like the big night where the Grandmaster is supposed to take one of them, Sophie is like giving herself for the guy, and Agatha is actually trying to prevent that from happening, and ends up being taken as the second child to this school. And when they are dropped off to the school, actually, haha, Agatha ends up in the good school, whereas Sophie ends up at the bad school, like the school for evil. And so that's where they meet the children of, like, kind of like Descendants, you know, the movies of Disney Channel. So the children of I don't know, the witch in Hansel and Gretel, the son of Captain Hook, or I don't know, there's the son of Cinderella, there's also the daughter of Mulan, or I don't know, Scheherazade, and then the son of Arthur, the king of Camelot. So that's the guy that kinda Sophie notices, and she's like, ooh, I want him to be my prince so that I can be like his princess, but it's gonna be hard from my side of the school. Whereas Agatha is like, I want to go home, and she's trying to convince Sophie to go with her, but Sophie somehow convinced her to help her charm the prince in order to I don't know, get the good part and all in the story and change things in the school. But actually they figure out that the Grandmaster has kind of a plan, and there's a reason why they are each on their side of the school, and maybe, just maybe, there was no mistake. So this is all that I'm saying. Of course, with all the developments of the characters, the relationships, even the sort of enemy friendship, frenemies of Agatha and Sophie, this is such a blast to follow. Like you get to see how everyone kind of ends up being together or oppose each other, but are somehow completing each other, and I love it. There's some part of a love triangle, yes, and also the relationship between Agatha and Sophie. I know many people like ship them together. Just gonna spoil you on this side. I would advise you not to do that, not because they would not end up together, but because really they are like sisters, and they don't see each other that way, so that would be like wasting your ship ability on them. Like, you would waste time, I'm sorry. But you can ship Tedros with whoever you like. You can like see other possibilities for Sophie. There's my favorite character that kind of has a crush on her for the longest time, but that just doesn't happen. And my favorite character, if you saw the movie, you're like, why does she like this dude? It's because he's so funny, he's so silly, and really, I guess, even though he's supposed to be a villain, he's so sweet, and that's hot. And I like the development of his personality and character in the story through the 6 books. There's a bit of a controversy with the Netflix adaptation because it's not as good as the book, but it was not a success, so I believe there will not be a following one. Like, they made it out to be a sequel would be good with it, but I don't think there will be. I kind of liked it. I would have preferred it as a series also, because they would have, I guess, would have had time to get more into things, and I believe they made it even more childish than the book are, because the book are a bit childish because it's about fairy tales, but there are parts of it that are like teenagers like, and that are like easy to read, kind of like a Harry Potter book. You know, it's not just for children, but it is primarily made for children. In the movie, I believe they focused way too much on the children part, even though the characters were older, and also there was the change of Agatha's appearance. I didn't mind her being black or mixed or whatever. I kind of like the actress. I already saw her in another series on Disney Channel. But the thing is, they changed her, like, I didn't believe I am beautiful into I'm actually beautiful when I give myself some efforts to be like happy and open-minded for the people around me, and kind of let my shell down. No, they don't do that as much, I believe. So like the Tedros and Agatha's side of the story is much more, I don't know, not as well developed as in the books. Whereas Sophie, they focus a lot on Sophie in the film, and it is good and bad the way they did it. I kind of liked it, of course. They sped up the storyline, and it felt like way too easy, and there was not enough development. Like I said, in adaptations, usually there's some disappointments, but I believe it was still a kind of good adaptation. I felt like happy watching it because I was like, oh, this is my word, I know this word, I kind of like that. So yeah, that will be all for the School for Good and Evil. Okay, and the third series I intend to tell you about is very little known, but kind of worth it. So, what could scare potential future readers? Don't just get that in your mind. Don't let it stop you. There's a reason there is so many books. So the series is about 22 main volumes for now. I believe it is all for now. Like, there's no coming up, and there's all kind of short stories around it. I believe there are about 40, but actually if you are in some kind of edition where they added them to the main volumes, there's like 10 left that are not just in the main volumes. That's not an issue because I didn't read all of the short stories, they are not necessary. But the 22 books, I intend to read them all. I guess I'm just at the 19 books, and I realized I actually missed one. I skipped one, the 14th one and 15th maybe. When I reread the synopsis and all, and I was on Goodreads to see the list, the full on list, I was like, well, I missed a few actually. And to tell you how much it's not an issue to stop anywhere you want or to skip a book or two, it's because each book is a new point of view and a new couple, so you never actually miss a lot, or you're not going to be lost if you stopped anywhere. This is a pretty big series, and Nalini Singh as the author, I kind of like what she does. I also read another series, I started it, she writes, that is not as into this kind of universe, but I like this universe a lot, and it kind of inspired another series I will talk to you on another video that I very much like, because I believe it is my kind of thing now that I like to read, and that's thanks to this author, so very much thank you. And she's a queen because she actually wrote the first book in 2006, and until like 2020 I believe she still came out with some short stories that added to the story, so wow. So I actually didn't read it when I was in 2006 because I was only 4. I read it when I was in middle school, but like the last year of middle school, and actually the last semester. It was during the summer. I remember a specific book, like the 4th or the 5th one. It was like the hottest summer yet. I used to have a bed that was like uplifted, and I couldn't sleep on it because we were on the last floor of the whole building, so that was like the hottest spot. I threw some mattress on the floor and I slept on it. Well, I was supposed to, but I couldn't because it was yet again too hot. So I spent like my nights reading just to I don't know, get myself tired and actually fall asleep, but I couldn't because like the books were so good, and I read them, and I remember turning and returning and moving on to the pages, and I was like, oh my god, this is so good. It is a supernatural, kind of futuristic, a sci-fi, but not really romantic, very much erotic story. So to summarize, we have this kind of futuristic world that always had 3 species sharing the world. So the first one being humans, like us, like you, like me, readers. We are boring, we are just basic. So humans. And there's Psy. So the Psys are human, very fragile with their physics. They don't handle very well alcohol and and drugs, but they have like psychiatric abilities like that are amazing. Like they can do telekinesis, they can do telepathy, they have sometimes visions of the future, they have all kind of stuff like that does not include the willpower of the body but just of the mind. And on the opposition there's changeling. So the changelings are like very strong. They have an amazing smell, an amazing vision, amazing hearing and tastes. That's because there are some sorts of werewolves, except that they not only transform in wolves, but they can change, actually they can change into any kind of species they are. So they can be leopards, cheetahs, they can be bears, I believe there were bears, snake also, rats. That was very weird when they introduced the rats community, but it's actually interesting. The thing is, Psy have had very low life experience, low life rate, like they die young, and they usually didn't control their abilities and caused a lot of harm around them. So they installed a sort of system that was obligatory for everybody that was a Psy species. So they had to shut down every emotion, like to wipe their emotions. They become like robots, only interested in business and things like that. They use their ability only for, like, I would say, mean stuff. So they get a reputation to be pretty much heartless. And yeah, that system is called silence. And when you don't respect it, when you show some kind of emotion and all, because you're supposed to be a danger to the society, they put you in sort of psychiatric asylum that will like make you a vegetable and you are like useless, trapped in your own mind. So that's like the worst punishment possible for every Psy ever. And because of this new way of living, yeah, they're perceived as bad persons because the humans are fragile. They can easily be controlled by them, and at the same time the humans are also fragile because of the changeling that are so strong and could literally kill them without them having the time to react. And the changeling actually do not react well at all to the Psy because it's in their nature to be very emotional, very touchable and all, where Psy are just like and so that the two species clash, and the third one usually ends up paying for the consequences of this clash. And so we have to follow every couple, every book. So there's sometimes Psy and changeling, so this is a very dangerous combination because Psy are not supposed to feel anything, but then they meet this person that is overly like protective, overly touchy and honest and emotional, and they have to handle that. Or they can be changeling but like of different clans and packs. So that also can sometimes create some troubles. And there's also humans with Psy. So this one, like, there's also the part of is he controlling me or I am falling in love. And there's humans in changeling, though this one is very rare to be the main focus. We end up actually with 3 species that kinda don't get along, but we follow main characters that prove that there can be an alliance, but it's very hard to make. And that's why there is 22 books, because this is the time it takes for the society to improve, I guess. And it is such an interesting world to dive in, and I absolutely love it. I kinda can't wait to have the following books in my to be read lists coming. And I must say, you do not have to read every short stories. It is okay, but you can stop anywhere you want between the 22 books. but really I hope you will do like me and like hang on and go till the ending, because it is worth it. Even the big books are kind of easy to read because there's some things that are redundant, like the soulmate systems kind of showed up every time except a few times, and there are times you're like, no, they can't be soulmates, this one already had a soulmate, you know. So that's kind of like, even when you fear this is gonna get too similar each book, actually there's still some plot twists, there's still some sub plots that are like such a mess to actually later on solve. And characters that are shown in the beginning of books can sometimes get their main character moments in another book, and also there's new characters that shows up that are like very either dangerous or actually quite endearing. So you know, you can find everything in it. So that's why I'm like recommending to go till the ending, because I believe that if you go to the ending, you get truly the emotional experience of I like this world. And I believe everyone should at least get it a chance. Do not stop at the 3 books if you're not convinced after them, because I believe they are good, but the better ones are just after. So yeah. So this is a long but passionate commitment I made, and I hope that you will make now too, because I recommend it very, very fairly. And if you didn't know yet these books, or if you did but you were kind of hesitant, I really recommend those for you. On this note, I believe it is time for me to go back to my Kindle. I hope you will have good readings as well, my fellow readers, and see you next time. Bye. Bye.